Found it. Okay, I tried to put it in the K drive and I did not. So I'm bringing in here the base drawing into an Inventor part. I hit there. We're going to go make sure I'm in the right project. I'm going to hit open here. Should have saved first, but I'm going to go through this process here. It's going to take a while. A couple things you've got to click, and you might want to play around with solids and the like, but the concept generally is once you kind of learn how to do 2D things in SketchUp or in Autocad, you do the 2D in Autocad and then bring these in and use the concept of Sketchblocks. You notice there, that is those errors you get is because you have some references to a scanned image for the logo, things like that. So we're going to bring in everything. We really don't need this here, but we're bringing it in anyway. We're bringing mostly the model is what we're trying to do. You notice you're missing the bottom here. What I'm hitting is next, going through very important AutoCAD blocks to Inventor blocks. This is probably the most important thing that you're going to see here. You hit finish. All this is going to come into your drafting plane, and you're kind of okay with that. And if you had replaced the blocks, you see it's over constrained to sketch. So I'm going to hit accept here, and I've got essentially all this laid out. And you notice how these are kind of in parentheses, some of them, so they're actually constrained by something else. So what I'm going to do here is let you realize that this is a block, right? If you look at the sketch there, that is a block, and this is a second instance of it. So instead of that, I'm going to go ahead and right click and delete everything. So I'm starting back to base 0, and now I'm going to bring in basically the plate steel. Well, I'm going to go back here. I should probably do a couple of undos and redos. Okay, right there. If you notice here, as we thought about that geometry, there's really one important piece of information here, and that is that kind of angle that we've got here. So we're going to try to go ahead and right click and see if we can use some of those tools, which would be the one you're looking particularly is for measure. And let's see, measure here. So we're going to measure an angle, right? So we're going to measure that angle here, and try to dual unit. You see non-radian precision. We're going to try to grab it in a bunch of places. So I'm going to click that. Done. And what I guess I'm going to try again, try to measure an angle again a little bit better. Try to measure. Bail out on this. You start to realize when you start to it no trig, but I'm going to go right click, looking for the measure angle. All right, measure angle. So let's see here. Will it measure that angle? Select next line edge, and I'm going to measure there. And so 18.363 degrees. All right, 18.363 degrees. That's why you have a sheet of paper on your desk. 18 points. Better do it again, or you can just hit the rewind. You're going to go ahead and learn to hit right click, measure angle. You grab one angle and another. 18.363. Alright, all that said, you really want to get used to doing this, I believe, until you really master the sketch blocks. Delete, and then just go ahead, click out to the plus here, the blocks, bring in the gusset. Right, you've got that gusset there, and if you notice there's a little point right there. That's kind of one of the key things you're going to see. And then you're going to bring in the plate steel. It's out here, and then you've got two things on a sketch plane. What you can then do is apply your constraints from one to the other and grab whatever you need. You notice here that little point is not actually right on the corner. It's a little off, so I'm going to constrain that one to this one, and it all pops right there. And right click, done. So you've kind of brought one thing in, put it in the right spot, and when we can try it again, we can now bring in another piece of plate steel, a second instance of this. So we're going to pull this over here, right, and we can actually do all kinds of different constraints, but one thing we really would like to do is really constrain perhaps this dot to this line this time. So we can go ahead and do a 2 segments. So I'm going to try to see if I can grab the point there. That's not what we want, but perhaps coincident. I'm going to try to grab that to that line, and it does that. And now we can do things like kind of take this, right click, done, right click, done. We might be able to kind of do some rotation here. Now that's not necessarily what we wanted, but it's actually kind of neat. So understanding that I'm going to go here and undo here, we probably want to constrain that line here to be horizontal, so we can go ahead and say horizontal. We're going to make that horizontal. And now right click, done. Now as we go ahead and grab this, we kind of have that constraint. We can kind of slide this thing along. So that's a process here, and you notice here each of these dimensions, some of them are locked, some of them are not. The one along the bottom. So if I go to here, it's going to be interesting. If I double click in here and change that, instead of being 119, I might want it 150, right? We'll see how the blocks differ when you go from 150 inches. And you notice we should have made that 2 separate blocks because one is driving the other. So I'm going to do an undo here. So you have to be careful when what you do with your blocks. But I want to point out now, this next step is the key one you're looking for here right now. We've got something we can spend some time figuring out how to kind of get this one and move it over. I'm just kind of sliding it. It's got some constraints, right? Trying to get that to a point where it's right around where we need it to be. And we could unconstrain it and move it up, but for now we'll just leave that as a 0 gap and hit a right click, finish sketch, and you get to the point where you want to be here, and that is in terms of getting to a point where you manage by making a part or make components. So make components is what we want. This is what you'll notice, and this is really the piece de resistance of Sketchblocks. So we can go here to make components. I'll just hit yes and forget. I'm going to go ahead and put these save as in what place we want them in. We want to go and put them in a particular spot we know. I'm just going to place it here for now as we're going to run out of some time. Looking for the correct directory, which I do not see, Inventor, and there should be a directory in here which I somehow lost, but I'm going to go ahead and hit save this in iPart 1. We're going to grab our Sketchblocks. So we've grabbed each of those, hit next. It's going to actually make 2 parts, and those parts are going to allow us then to do this. So you've made 2 parts. You're now in an assembly file. Hit a double click here. There are your parts, and now you can actually start to deal with the particular part. So what you do is you go about, you remember you have an assembly view and you have a modeling view. You go to the modeling view, you click on, double click here, and you are there, and you can now do the extrude. And this type I'm going to come out. It's interesting that it comes in millimeters, but I'm going to bring it to be 25 millimeters here. I'm going to use the profile, and I'm going to come out. Hit OK. It actually made the part, and now I can go and double click, right click, finish edit, right click, right, you're there. You double click on another entity, so that other plate steel. Basically what you're doing is you are going to a point, you're double clicking or opening to the point where you're in the modeling mode, and then you can do an extrude. This time we're going to go 25 millimeters in. And I don't know why that went to millimeters. I think it might happen naturally. Click that. We're going to push that one down. We are going to right click out over the gray space, finish edit, and you see that that went backwards 25. This came out 25. This went down 25. We'll do it one more time. I think we don't even need to because those are the same block. Because what we've done is we've converted now, right? We've converted these blocks now to parts. So they are no longer sketch blocks, but they are parts, and you're pretty much there with what you need to do now in terms of going in and putting in holes. How do you add a hole? You double click once again in the model view. You're now in the gusset. You put a hole. Generally you're going to go through. In this instance here, you're going to give it a through all. Going to give it a, perhaps we'll make it a 25 for now. I'm just keeping that. That's not going to be correct. You're going to want to be able to change that later. You grab the face. You grab then the reference to 1 distance. I'll give it there, and then you click, and then the reference to the other. You do it there, click, and you're good to go. Hit apply, okay. That's it. Thanks for listening. You're on your way. That's all you need to do when you're making sketch blocks.